Stephanie from History Hustle, and I'm sitting here in a peaceful park in Ho Chi Minh City, in the south of Vietnam. And in this video, I'll talk about Ho Chi Minh. Ho Chi Minh was born on the 19th of May in 1890 in Nha, a region in north of Vietnam. His father was a Confucianistic teacher, and he himself got a similar education. In 1908, he witnessed an uprising against the French colonial oppressor. And however this uprising failed, Ho claimed that that was the moment his revolutionary ideas were born. In the upcoming years, he traveled the world working as a deckhand and lived for a few years in the United States, England and France. In England, he joined the communist movement, and in France, he helped founding the French Communist Party in 1920. In 1923, he worked as an agent for the Soviet Union, and in 1930, he co-founded the Indo-Chinese Communist Party. In 1941, he returned to Vietnam, and with his Viet Minh movement, he fought against the Japanese and later the French, which he defeated in 1954. In 1955, he withdrew from politics because of health reasons, and he died in 1969. He would never witness the end of the Vietnam War. The American historian John Bell wrote in The Blood and Rands of Ho Chi Minh that 50 till 100,000 people might have been murdered by the Ho Chi Minh regime. Rich farmers, businessmen, intellectuals, lawyers, doctors, teachers were murdered on the most horrifying way imaginable, and also women, children, and babies were killed. This work was written in 1968. At that time, the public opinion against America in the Vietnam War was pretty developed and spread out. So it's imaginable that this work was written with a goal to kind of support the Americans and therefore justifying their actions in the war. Recently, the American historian Stephen Roosevelt wrote that about 50 to 172,000 people might have been purged during Ho Chi Minh's reign from 45 to 55. But he also argued that 500 to 900,000 people might have been murdered by his party cadres. This brings us to two questions. First of all, to what extent did Ho Chi Minh knew about these atrocities happening? And second, to what extent did he have the power to stop this? Well, in 1954, he abolished the torturing of suspects. This says he knew about what was happening. However, why did he do that? Was it because of noble Confucianistic intentions? He once said, "Love yourself as you love someone else"? Or was it because of political reasons? Because around that time, the French were defeated. And according to the Geneva Agreements, there would be elections within 2 years throughout the whole of Vietnam. So it's imaginable that if stories of your country enter the south of Vietnam about atrocities and murders, that nobody would vote for him. So he would have his political reasons as well. Second, to which extent did he have the power to stop this? Well, that's hard to answer. To answer that question, we should go in depth on the commanding structures of that time. But also, communism is a radical and extreme movement with extreme followers who often acted on his own. So it's hard to say that he is directly responsible for mass killings, or these were just like party cadres and army officers and commanders acting on their own. With that, it was also war. War was all around, so this creates also a lot of confusion. So it's always hard to tell who's responsible for what. And we can argue that Ho's intentions, because of his Confucianistic background, for fighting against colonizing oppressors, these intentions were noble. But the way of doing this, by choosing communism, gave reason for massive bloodshed. Ho himself, he always said, "It was not communism, but patriotism that inspired me."